their drafting. So before they try to defend their top spot, we wanted to break down what makes their composition so good. There's been so much buzz, I think, also on the internet, on Twitter and on Reddit about OG's draft. Before we dive into a specific one, Yamato, as you have so much knowledge about drafting, what makes a good draft?
Well, I think the first thing that comes to mind is the hot topic for everyone is scaling. So what does scaling really mean? Because scaling is not just picking a champion that does a lot of damage in the late game, like a Vayne or a Kassadin. There's more to it. The big thing that a lot of people seem to be missing is that the interaction between champions, in contrast with the champions that are in the game, is very important. So sure, Kassadin, usually the big scaler, right? But if he's playing against, for example, a Camille and a Maokai that can lock him down, he's not that mobile, all of a sudden that changes his scaling. So this is very important to notify. The scaling in contrast to the champions in the game.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's not as easy as, hey, we can win a late game team fight with this. You have to also see what the enemy picks. Besides scaling, what else should you look out for in a good draft?
So another thing is, it's not just pick Azir, Kassadin, and Kog'Maw, Lulu, win the game. No. Pressure points. Basically, you need to be able to pressure some point in the map at all times. In the early game, you need something to play through. Your jungler needs to be able to go to a lane, create vision, control space. In the mid game, the same thing. If you win split, you can create vision through sides, or you can win the mid prio and also create space. It's all about creating space. Late game, the same thing. You need to be able to have side prio, mid prio, some kind of priority in order to, once again, just create space. Because space is vision, objectives is where you're going to fight most of the time. Creating that space is very important.
And you also got to make sure you have a way to win the game.
Of course. So the last one is, of course, the win conditions. Because sometimes you create that space, maybe you can't force that Nasher because you don't have enough damage. Sometimes you have compositions that are filled with like a Soraka, Jhin, and Ornn. All of a sudden you can't kill the Nasher. That's a problem. That's one win condition. Being able to kill the Nash. Winning split can be another win condition, meaning that the enemy is forced to do something and you're in a position where, oh, they're going to start Nash, we're in a position where we can force a fight, blue trinket, and go. And then the last one, of course, is just deep late game scaling, basically keeping the status quo and reaching a point where you're just too strong.
All right, scaling, pressure points, and win conditions. We said OG are the draft masters, have a draft kingdom. We have an example here, OG versus Mad Lions week 4. What's so good about their draft?
So this one, I like this one because the idea of the game is very clear. Play for the Leona and the Phelios in the bot side. They have a very good matchup. Ornn is going to be fine into LeBlanc. Even if Xerxe is going to pressure Ornn or Gangplank, they're going to be fine. They can play weak side and they're going to be very useful in the game. So no matter how far behind they are, they will still provide a lot of utility and be strong and scale into the game in contrast to the champions that we have on the right side. So the path to victory is clear. Mid game is going to be very clear too. Play on that mid prio, threaten with the Ornn and the GP ultimate. And then the late game, of course, speaks for itself with the Gangplank, Karthus, Phelios, and so forth.
What are the pressure points and the win conditions?
So the pressure points is, as I mentioned, the bottom side. Karthus just pathing the bottom in the game.
It means always goes to bottom.
Karthus was pathing into bottom, invading that Xerxe, creating a big lead from the get-go. And then later on, mid-game, you can create easily mid-prio through the GPU, the Karthus wall, Leona, basically pressuring that mid-prio with those ultimates that you can engage with. And then later on, you know, the Ornn just building items, Karthus reaching a point where he's just too strong, and you're going to automatically win.
This is something that we've said about Gyoro many times before, that he always has a very good way of looking into the draft. And I think what's important to mention also is that it's not just about the draft, because if you go into the game and completely forget all of the advice you have about the draft and how you're supposed to execute it, it's not going to work either. And that's where OG is, you know, a very fundamental team, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I think the early game has been very strong. They've identified the strengths, and Xerxe does a very good job of pressuring the pressure points. And their mid-game tends to slow down a bit, and I think that's a big difference between Fnatic, OG, and G2. I think Fnatic and G2 have a more aggressive approach to the mid-game, can analyze where they need to go, where they need to pressure fog, and I think this is where OG can learn from. But luckily for OG, in the current meta, draft means everything.
Yeah.
Better draft just wins. It's just how it is right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's perfect for them, and I'm glad you brought it up. That doesn't mean there's still not room to improve, because they've always had good drafts, right? We want to see them get to that next level, and that's how I'll be looking at this one as well. Which draft will they pull out versus SK Gaming? It could very well be that they don't even need to have a perfect draft, to be completely honest. But we will see OG, and we'll see what kind of tricks Gyoro has up his sleeve for today, as we leave it to the casters for those all-important picks and bans.
Thank you very much, and that is right. Gehoto and what tricks he has up his sleeves. Yankos straight up said that G2 stole Origen's draft, and it helped them break that losing streak. Let's see if OG can have another fantastic draft today.
Yeah, I'm saying, like, everyone should be stealing OG's drafts right now because they seem to be taking it late. They seem to be beating almost everyone that they face off against. And coming into this is the end of the first half of the round robin. This team is looking very, very nice.
They are indeed. Origen and SK taking one another on. It is time for picks and bans. Now, let's take a look. What are the priority picks here? Obviously, Origen are the favorites in this matchup. We've praised their draft kingdom. And you see Yuumi, Rakan, followed by Phelios and Gragas, quick fire out the gates.
Yeah, OG already targeting the support pool here of Limit down towards the bottom side. I'm curious to see how highly they prioritize picking up their own support for Destiny, who has looked good on the Rakan in the past. But of course, SK, they're thinking along the same lines, I think, as Yamato Cannon was, talking about how do you build a good draft. You get it by creating a lot of space, by having range. That's something Origen have been super focused on. And with the Aphelios and the Gragas gone already, that takes away some of these picks that OG has been so fond of.
Now, of course, because OG are the favorites and are definitely the team that has some, has demonstrated some like intelligence and smart play around the draft, what would you like to see from SK to try to disrupt that?
I mean, honestly, so they're taking away the Syndra here. This is going to be a very good flex picks option between Nukeduck and Upset. I'm most surprised to see Origen banning the Soraka themselves. I still think that they can play this. I think we saw Nukeduck playing it the last time, so obviously they do have the ability to flex it themselves, but just taking away all the healing options here has to be their plan. And now I think about the Gangplank. How highly is that prioritized? Now the Gragas is banned for an AP jungle option. The Karthus too for Xerxe, especially if they want to lock in an AD mid laner for Nukeduck.
It feels to me like we're in the meta of Ornn right now. I feel like it's appearing in every single game. The fact that it is a flex option here. We saw, I think, Nukeduck playing that last week.
He did play it.
I'm not sure if I was in love with it, and also because I like seeing Nukeduck on slightly higher skill demonstration champions.
Dude, like, if he's on the Ornn, that just means Xerxe is going to be on something like the Karthus, and that just means he's going to roll into mid lane and take all of his minions, and it'll be Xerxe carrying.
Two super boring champions to watch.
They took it though.
They have so much, dominance and control when ahead, but I like to see the fun. Set locked in along with that Karthus, as you rightly pointed out. So stealing that one away from OG, and I quite like the pick. But Trick will have to have a phenomenal performance to stop Xerxe, who is one of the OG Karthus players.
Yeah, he definitely is very experienced on that champion. Braum has to be the lock-in here. I feel like for the side of SK Gaming, you already see the MF and the Ornn on the other side, so it'd be a very strong champion if they want to go for it. Now, the problem with a Braum lock-in right now is that you have a Set in the top lane who's not the strongest primary initiation tool. You have a Karthus in the jungle as well, so you don't have a lot of abilities to start off fights proactively yourself. So instead of going for the Braum as the counter option into a couple of the champions that OG have gone for, they're thinking that maybe they want to play a little bit further back in team fights with the safety of an Ezreal and the range of a Karthus.
All right. That does require a level of control and coordination to ensure that you're not surprised, to ensure that, you don't get flanked or caught off guard. Yep. And I have a little bit of doubts right now, but let's see. Give SK the benefit to prove us wrong.
Yeah, I mean, maybe team-wise you have some doubts, but Crownshot Ezreal, that, I mean, if you remember 2019, absolutely beautiful performances on that champion, was one of his go-to picks, right next to the Kai'Sa, I think, as being that sort of 1-2 punch in the AD carry position. So I'm a little optimistic to see what he can bring to the table in this game.
I like that. And of course, because you talk so much about the Braum ender, Origen see and feel that as well. It is the first ban in Phase 2. Deny, limit the ability to play that. And with Nautilus, Rakan, Yuumi, all taken off the table, and another potential support ban here from OG. You see what direction he wants to take it. And you have to feel that they're going to leave their top/mid lane pick for counter. That would be the safe option too.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like right now, technically SK could just allow the Set to follow this Ornn pick, whether it goes into the top lane or the mid lane, so just feel it out and get the really solid counter pick for whatever OG choose to lock in next. This would be your situation to lock in something. I mean, so many of the initiation tools are gone. I'm honestly a little confused as to what they would go for. Like, Morgana would be like a super niche counter, but I don't think you want that next to an Ezreal here. Like, Limit's gonna really have to dig down deep for this one.
Okay, so what you're looking for something with initiation.
Yeah, they
go
need it.
forward. Is there a non-traditional pick that we could think of? Not quite the initiation, but you know what? Maybe an Abyssal Voyage can deliver Set to the back. Maybe Karthus, and he can throw his Defile down. Not quite the option that you're looking for. So let's see, where do they round the composition out? Still looking for some
Oh,
form of
yes!
advantage.
Yes.
And Xerxe's
I'm
playing
so
in.
ready for this.
Why are you so excited?
Okay, so right now they're gonna get their AP damage from the jungle. It's not the Karthus, it is the Nidalee in the jungle instead. This is a champion that, especially post first clear, can try to match Karthus's pace inside of the jungle, and with her healing is a super good anti-Requiem mechanic. The second he calls to drop in the R to execute someone, Xerxe should be there with the heal. So Origen have some really solid options, and they have CC tools with both the Nautilus and the Ornn to set up for just like basically target locked spears from Xerxe.
But now this is exactly what I was saying earlier. If you're gonna play Karthus against Xerxe, you need to perform this excellently. You've already explained a couple of the ways it can be countered, and for the final pick from SK, they've locked in the Vlad. There is a lot of late game insurance here, but not a huge amount of initiation tools as far as I can see.
Yeah, that's where like so much faith has to be put on Sacre in this game. Not only is he going back to, you know, his preferred range top lane matchup that he's loved to play for so long here, not just in the LEC, but also in EU Masters, but the best way for them to start off a fight is a Vladimir flank coming in around the side. If he can drop down a beautiful ulti into the Requiem too, there is AoE combinations here for SK to try and take into the team fights.
But now, of course, both of these teams have got a lot of abilities to play in the late game. I want to see what Xerxe can do on Nidalee in the early game. I've seen Nidalee over in the LCK, if I recall correctly. T1 actually played it, I think. I need to double check that one. But what are our expectations for this champion in the game? It has the ability to impact earlier, I feel, than a Karthus.
Yeah, the thing is, Nidalee ganks aren't going to be super strong unless she's next to champions that have CC to set it up. She can apply the red buff from range, so don't be too surprised. But honestly, I think that this is going to be a very excellent scaling pick alongside the Karthus. Expect her to spike around one item primarily and then go hard in the mid game.
All right, let's see what they can do. We actually have Medic standing by with Quixote to find out.
Thank you very much, Crownshot. I'm joined by Quixote. I want to talk a little bit about when you saw SK drafting very safely, looking at Ezreal, Tahm, Kench. What goes through your mind as a coach, and how does that affect your draft?
It's hard to say because they seem to start drafting a comp with a low amount of CC, which opened for some new picks. I was not really expecting them to draft this way, but I just feel that it just gives us a lot of freedom when they have a comp with low amount of CC. So that's the only thing that's the only info that we got from those picks.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Do you look at the scaling on either side and worry a little bit? Because when you're looking at like a Vladimir, when you're looking at a Karthus, you know they have a lot of magic damage in the late game.
Yeah, but at the same time, most of their scaling comes from magic damage, right? Even the Ezreal has a bit of magic damage. So I think that if we itemize properly and then with the upgrades of Ornn, scaling shouldn't be that big of an issue, even though I do think that they have a strong comp later on in the game.
Thank you very much. We're going to hand it back across towards the casters.
All right, so Quixote not necessarily too worried about the scaling on SK's side. Now, I love the point he made about the low CC from SK. This is also something we were looking at. And what that basically means is that they went for this Nidalee because there's not a whole lot of initiation tools to stop her from poking before a teamfight breaks out. And SK already on the offensive with Ezreal and Tahm Kench and the Karthus. It is a very strong level 1, so they can force OG out of the jungle.
All right, good job here from SK. I am very happy to hear their game plan and see the game plan activating itself. Xander and I just having a little giggle to ourselves. They've got vision, they've got some control. What is the response here from OG? Xerxe sort of backed away safely, pulling in support here from Upset and Destiny. Is this the right call?
I mean, they're going to scout the bush with the Q. Big damage on towards Trick. So the question is, do SK want to stick around, especially with Nukeduck coming around? I think they're going to be able to get him out of here.
Who wins the fight here? Because it looks like it's coming.
I mean, SK have so many strong level 1 tools that OG really have to play off a good hook.
So why are they running away?
I don't, because this is so weird. They're playing around the wall, right? Because ideally they want OG to start up the buff and sort of lock themselves inside of that pit. OG are getting really stubborn though. SK can stay though. They should win this. Stop getting hit by spears, and then you can win this.
And of course, SK, they're playing so nervously, cautiously. Trick is going to steal away the Chicken's camp. One secured by Nukeduck. And Trick gets a couple more. I need to double check the
Okay.
CS. 2-1. It actually ended up meaning Trick burns his mana and he doesn't get the CS.
Yeah, so it's basically even overall here. Xerxe, neither of them hit level 2, and Trick is going to be way happier with this sequence of events. Now that Xerxe has gone mid for the level 2, though, we should get Trick out of here.
Does indeed. That's an early flash. If the Javelin had connected, maybe the Cougar form would have gone, towards Trick. SK, great idea.
Oh, look at
but
Xerxe.
fumbling on the execution.
Xerxe can keep on going in here. He's going to scout the blue buff first, so maybe Trick can take over to level 2 if he gets those 2 small wolves. Xerxe still on the hunt, though, and level 2 doesn't come through. This is so bad.
All right, Trick is able to secure it, though. Hits level 2. I'm assuming putting a point into that Defiant State of the Wall of Pain, and now Xerxe is going to hop across. So his red buff, if I recall, was not picked up yet.
Right.
And let's see if Xerxe can secure the 3 buff.
Yeah, so the thing is, if Xerxe was able to actually get the red buff at level 1, he for sure wins this, because he can just go into a ranged form, into his human form, and just start right-clicking on Trick. And there's not a whole lot that Trick can do against that. Even with the Q being a very strong level 1 ability, it's not quite going to be enough. So now Xerxe very likely just sprints over towards his topside jungle, stops Trick from doing a whole lot, because as you can see, level 1 Karthus without access to a blue buff is just going to have to go for an early base. He just doesn't have the mana.
No, absolutely does not, especially after the additional spam on the enemy chicken camp, then following it up on your own. So the sequence of events ends up giving OG a small advantage here during the course of the early game, and Xerxe should be able to secure his own blue, giving him a 3-buff start to 1, which is just great for an Italy. You really want to accelerate as quickly as you can.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I was thinking Xerxe was going to head straight up to his blue buff, but if you look at the waves in both top lane and mid lane, OG have the push, so Xerxe doesn't feel super pressured. There's also no flash on Trick, so there's no way that guy's going to look for an invade. You can see the map play from OG, beautiful as well. They have a ward north of the river. They also have Destiny just walked into that bot side jungle to make sure Karthus wasn't on the Scuttle Crab, to make sure that when Karthus goes for that Gromp, he will be spotted too. So Xerxe might even just go for the double crab play here instead of farming his topside jungle.
Well, Ender, you pointed out that the top and mid lane was pushing in favor of OG. 10 CS advantage in the top lane for Alphari. It's 3 at the moment for Nukeduck, and there is a wave crashing towards him, and currently 7 for Upset. So early advantages across the map. Xerxe is going to look for the Javelin toss, and it will connect. Not the greatest damage as you mentioned, but there goes the Cougar form pounce, and a flawless engage to get the flash.
OG have certainly been playing with this champion in scrims. You can see how Xerxe was waiting for all the CC to land before throwing out his spear right there. Just means that whenever you look for these Nidalee ganks, there's basically 2 ways you can approach it. If you have CC with your lanes, just let them use their abilities first to land that and then jump in. There's a quick little play down towards the bot side. Limit should be fine. And if you don't have CC, you pounce forward, go ranged, and start hitting them with the slows from red buff. And then you're going to be super, super happy. You can see at level 4, too, Xerxe just wants to run back right into Trick's jungle.
He does indeed. He's going to be able to put the trap down. Goes into
Oh,
the
take
bush,
that.
and now all of a sudden, Limit was able to respond. The fact that Wave was pushed all the way to SK's tower means that support can come in very quickly. But the game plan is very clear to me. Xerxe just wants to give Trick a hard time.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because I don't think Xerxe would have played this aggressively without SK's level 1 invade. Like, yes, Xerxe has the option to walk into the enemy jungle, but it really was delaying Trick's initial clear, getting level 2 first, and then Trick also losing flash that has made this so difficult for him early on.
All right, Alphari, level 5 at the moment. I was waiting to see if Cannon Barrage would come up, stepping all the way forward. Sacre's recall gets interrupted. I think the fact Trick was nearby, maybe some sort of communication happened, so Sacre not going to get the recall off, will be able to pick up just 1 additional CS, and now finally backing nearly 3 waves down Alphari's gank plan.
Dude, Sacre is getting smashed right now up there in the top lane. It is not looking too good for him at the moment. Of course, we know once he gets items under his belt, he'll be much more comfortable in this matchup and in the team fights. But for right now, OG just seemed to be losing in all 3 lanes. And while I think Trick has been able to keep up largely in the jungle, if you look at the actual overall gold, it's just about 100 separating these 2 players because Xerxe has been delaying so much. The fact that Xerxe is keeping Trick away from level 6 for as long as possible just means that that level 6 Karthus ultimate power is just being that more delayed. Like, Nukeduck is level 6 right now, while Trick is level 4 still.
Did you hear the interview with Jankos earlier? He actually gave an in-depth, detailed guide on how to play Karthus.
Yeah, no, I've actually been playing a lot of Karthus myself, and I think that a lot of his points really stood out to me. Primarily the one where you want to press R, I think, when they're low on HP.
That was it.
Yeah.
The wording, I think the wording was really good. He said, timing the R, you know? It's next level, Jankos, really. Thank you for the in-depth. Look, I want to go a little bit to Crownshot, though, because you talked about his Ezreal. from last season. And we've not seen too much of the bottom lane. Crownshot's the guy I'm going to be looking at throughout the course of this game because he is the player on SK that I think is the man that needs to step up to the plate. Last year was the Self-Made show, and then when the lights went off on Self-Made, Crownshot was in the spotlight. And you can take a look at some of the stats at the bottom of your screen. Kill participation, jungle proximity, the gold share. SK are trying to play around him, but it's just not strong enough yet.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Is like they are clearly invested in this player, bringing him through to 2020, but it's really hard to look good on a team that's 2-6 already in the season. Yet when they put him on these picks like the Ezreal and whatnot, that's what we need to see out of this guy in this game. His team doesn't have initiation tools. He's gonna have to put up really high damage numbers if SK want to have a good chance in a match like this, and takes a full bullet time to the face.
I believe that is called Cast a Curse, as literally we start talking about him, and unfortunately he stands in the middle of bullet time, but with a little bit of HP, and he's got the Devour. Look, one Javelin toss, and that's going to be tickets. You got to be so careful.
Trick's level 4!
Lordhorn comes in, level 6 Xerxe, level 7 Nukeduck, and Trick is now flashless, level 4 at 8.5 minutes.
Yeah, and like, we're talking about Crownshot right now. How bad does it feel to be him? He's just, his jungler's getting invaded on, he's getting ulted under tower, he can't farm because he's afraid of being dove. This is a cute little play to get him the Gromp though, so should turn that frown upside down for the moment, but we talk about players that have to step up. In a game like this, when so many players on your team are already being set behind top lane jungle, like, it's his time to shine.
Yeah, it has to be. And, it's 1,000 gold difference just from CS. The Infernal Drake has already been secured as well, and Nukeduck is going to be able to sidestep some of that damage from Jenax. And this is just a really good start. Remember, SK initiated the invade, and everything that's come from that is how Xerxe has responded.
Yeah, meanwhile, Destiny has now teamed up with Xerxe. There's wards all over Trick's jungle. They said, nah, we don't need to invade him at the red buff. We'll let him get that. We'll let him get the Krugs too. It's time for Herald because they want to accelerate this game as fast as possible.
And huge thank you to the observers for... not even toggling the vision, but just taking a look at how
they're going top
worked
instead.
out. And now let's take a look what happens here. The Rift Herald was interrupted, but now Sacre will be the target. He's burning down, and he will be able to escape with his life right now, holding onto the flash, but he did need to blow the ultimate.
Yeah, right now OG are just trying to take full control over the map, and SK are lucky that it's OG don't have the Karthus, because he would just press R right now, and Sacre would be very sad. But even with Limit moving towards the top side of the map, OG still have full control, still will be able to get this Herald. This is almost a game where you wonder, like, should SK have looked for the 8-minute Herald swap themselves if they're losing in every lane, or do you value getting the solo EXP on Crownshot bot side when all the supports have left a little bit more?
Yeah, I get what you mean. And I've got a slightly, obscure question, so bear with me on this.
Hit me.
Right? The last time that Xerxe played Nidalee on stage was in summer of 2017, right? He won that game. So you're talking a year and a half, 2.5 years, roughly, right, since he's played it. Now, when you look at all the players, with the exception of maybe Destiny, there is a whole lot of competitive experience here across the board. What I'm going to get to is this. When you play with Nidalee, a champion that's not particularly mainstream meta, it changes the way you have to play. Now they're coming up against a new squad that has to react to this different playstyle. The level 1, their game plan gets thrown off. So all the experience, all the knowledge that they can lean on, combined with the fact that they've got all this history to draw from, gives them such an advantage in a matchup like this.
Yeah, I mean, it's very clear that OG's coordination as a team is paying dividends right now. Just Xerxe calling, I have the ability to run into the enemy jungle, him doing it constantly. Coordinating to make sure the CC comes out first before the spears, that's fairly basic, but all of these things are important on Nidalee because if you don't land the spear, she does basically no damage.
Yeah,
By landing the spear, by hunting your target, you get so much more benefits through the damage that you actually deal in your Cougar form when you do jump in. So these are the things that OG need to be aware of, and they seem to be so far.
Yeah, exactly, and that's game continue to build up. 11 minutes, that gold lead has only grown. 1,500 right now, call it 1,700 in fact. And the man that we haven't mentioned for a moment or two, Alphari, 112 CS to his opponent's 77. Earlier today, the analyst desk asked people to start talking about who their mid-split MVPs are, and I just want to give a potential candidate here. Highest KDA, high CSD, damage per minute difference is way up there. Kill participation for a top laner. at 2/3. 67%
Okay.
is mind-blowing.
That's just because he plays Gangplank every game. The other stats I'll give you, but the kill participation is Gangplank and
Why
like
are you going to
Sora.
be a buzzkill? Let me hype the stat up, man. But no, I mean, we'll get back to Alphari in a
Hello.
moment, because our earlier conversation of Crownshot is under threat. Xerxe is looking for the javelin toss, and Limit and Crownshot are dodging it, dodging and dipping and ducking. Limit gets caught by the dredge line. Upset puts a lot of damage out. He's already used the bullet time. The
TV
stopwatch
behind.
has been used. Teleport coming down. Alphari stab padding with the ulti. Karthus presses all at the wrong time. Trick doesn't find the kill. The stopwatch manages to save Upset while Destiny escapes. The Orn Horn comes down, and it's split between the uprights. No points secured. Now Jenax is in trouble. The javelin finds him, but they continue to escape. Nobody dies! And we will reset.
Everyone's just throwing warning shots right now. Xerxe still involved, and it's a big spear, but remember, Devour is there for Limit. He's just going to keep looking for these over the wall, but the rest of his team isn't around. He's going to have to back away from this at the end, but what is happening, Trevor?
Dude, don't ask me. I'm gold. You tell me. Nevertheless, the chaos breaks out. And OG will peel back to the dragon. I actually am looking forward to a replay, because that was one of the more entertaining, yet least rewarding fights that I've seen in a while.
There was nothing rewarding about that, Trev. We just watched everyone miss everything for so long. Oh, and OG don't seem like they want to give up. They're right back in the jungle. They want that bot lane tower too. So at the end of it all, it is still OG out on top.
And if I can theorize for a moment, Ocean Drake for OG is Trick's worst nightmare. The key is pressing R at the right time, and if they have all of that regen, it could make such an impact on a jungler that is a level down, 25 CS out, and is already struggling. Let's take a look at this potential engage as Trick wants to get first blood. Alphari will be the target, and it should easily be secured here.
Turn your E off!
May not! The Devour! It finally happens, and Limit is able to pick it up, and now the turnaround. Limit gets caught by the dredge line. Here comes Upset. Bullet time's available. They sidestep the wall of pain. It ends up being the wall of shame. Upset's not done yet.
Yeah, Xerxe is on the way as well, so it's going to be a little bit wild, but they're going to play off of the next dredge line from Destiny. Wait, that's a wall.
Spider Nautilus throws out the ultimate. The bullet time comes down. Limit gets picked up. That's one for OG.
There you go. OG able to turn it around, and Xerxe still looking after towards Trick. SK put a lot of resources into killing Alphari there, so good on them to make it work out in the end. It was a close call, though. He was dodging a lot of Qs there.
I had one of those moments where I was like, it's going to be an easy kill. He blew up a barrel. All of a sudden, Trick went low, and it looked like he was running out of mana as well.
Yeah, I was calling in the fight, turn your E off, Trick, because he's just burning all his mana. He's not going to be able to cast a Q. In the end, though, was able to finish him off. Now, OG have the wave in top lane again. You can just see this is how OG do beat you. It's by controlling minion waves, right? They've gotten every objective so far in this game. They got that bot lane tower, and there's no way for SK to respond anywhere else on the map, because SK went super deep to get that kill. OG chased them all the way down, so they get more chip damage onto that top lane tower, while Nukeduck was able to hold off 1v2 in the end.
Yeah, and of course, unfortunately, because all the action has been played sort of elsewhere on the map to a degree. Yes, there's been some ganks in Crownshot's lane. He's stayed even, but truthfully, mid is behind, top is behind, Trick is way behind on this Karthus. SK Gaming find themselves in a 3,000 gold hole, and it will be difficult to come back because there's so many initiation tools on OG, so they can maintain this lead by pushing into SK over and over.
Exactly, and you can already see, like, itemization-wise, like, Xerxe has 2 items, and yes, he's going for cheap itemization here, right, with the Athenes, the support build. He probably goes for an Ardent Sensor next too, for a couple of the auto-attack dealers on his team, but that's going to help him max out on CDR very, very quickly. It's going to mean the heals are going to be there constantly, and then how do SK actually kill the backline? Well, that's going to be really hard unless they find perfect flanks with Sacre and Jenax.
Can you theorize with me, like, sort of, you know, middly builds within the context of this game, and maybe how it would differ in other games? Like, do you like the slightly more supportive builds?
So in solo queue, I say grab yourself a Lick Bane, get yourself a Rabadons, you know, go full damage, a Mejai's, toss it in there. But in pro play here, when you have like a GP and the MF too, I think you go for the more supportive build. You may even see Xerxe just healing up Ornn in the front line too, and soaking up a whole lot of damage from Crownshot, because when you look at SK's comp, like, all Crownshot is going to be able to do is hit tanky frontliners. So if you just heal through that, his actual impact is going to be severely reduced.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so good context. Let's see what the next item will be, if it is going to be that Artisan Center. Essence Reaver picked up by Upset. Manamune slowly stacking up for Crownshot. And Sacre, he's just thrift shopping at the moment. A Seeker's Arm Guard, the Fiendish Codex, that's not a lot to work with on a Vlad. The Rift Herald has been summoned, and the Ornn Horde, it's thrown out. That's a double knockup. Limit will get caught up by 3 different ultimates, but doesn't go down thanks to the thick skin. The Herald will get tagged by a True Shot Barrage, but it won't be enough to kill it. 3 towers to 0. 2 dragons to 0. And despite the even kill score, 4,000 gold up, and OG, they're not done yet.
It is a very OG game right now, Trevor. Now, Nukeduck also finishing off some magic resistance here. We remember Gyotto talked about that in the pre-game interview, or post-pick ban interview, I should say, where there's a whole lot of magic damage on SK's side. So now that he has found that item, it's going to be that much more difficult for SK to try and cut on through him. And also remember, like, regardless of the initiation tools to both sides, like, think about the range that OG's comp is bringing to the table with the Ornn ultimate, GP, Miss Fortune. Like, they're going to hit you from a mile away. They're going to kill you before you even get to fight back against them. And that's what we've seen so many times, especially when SK are sort of bundled up, huddled underneath the tower. They just throw down that Ornn Horn into the Nautilus ultimate, and then a bullet time, and you get a kill, or you get a summon, or you chunk them out, and that turns into objectives. That is only going to be, really zoomed in on when we get around these neutral objectives, like a dragon or perhaps a baron later down the road. OG are going to thrive.
One could say the magnification of those abilities will be felt when we zoom in on those clumped up team
Look
fights.
at the flank, look at Ornn roaming down towards mid as well. We're about to see a big team fight.
All right, Alphari, stat pad with a cannon barrage. That's a 1, 2, 3, 4-man stack. All of a sudden, Jenax is giving in, but the party's going to be simply too late. Bullet time comes out, and the magnification of the range is great.
Oh, flash spear!
Will be able to pick up the kill. And the Fashion Javelin toss manages to find another defensive flash from Sacre and Crownshot. They're slowed by the call of the Forge Guard, but the knockup will not land. 2 members down, a teleport committed, and Jenax pieced out of the fight because he's just going for a tower. The fight was lost before he could even arrive.
Yeah, it's just not even fair for SK to play into this. As I said, they can't get away from OG's skill shots, and they just continue to push further and further. I mean, like, SK, they were trying to go for a fight there. They said, like, even though we're down, we need to stop OG from stacking the Drakes. SK, yes, they got the Drake. Yes, they stalled out the stacking mechanic, but they just fed OG more and more gold.
Yeah, they have. And I mean, look, I think, while it's a little harsh to say, this is kind of how you expected the game to play out. When you have looked at the teams this split, SK Gaming have gone 2-6, and they've only beaten teams below them, right? They took out Vitality, they took out Xerxe, if I recall correctly, and the squad just hasn't stepped up to be very competitive against the top of the table. This is the end of the first round robin, and for SK, some big things have to start changing for them to start looking maybe lower down, looking at the likes of Rogue, Mad Lions, XL, and try to pick up wins there. And if you can scrape into the top 6 for playoffs, but it has to start in the second half of the split.
Yeah, and that's where you're like sort of like trying to identify like which players do we feel like need to step up. And for Crownshot, a guy who I think is one of the better players on this roster, you'd love to see more out of him, but it feels like almost when you see sort of a team get outclassed in this way, just like OG's teamwork versus SK is just like huge gap between the two in a match like this, and this is just evidence to that.
Yeah, and look, the man on your screen, Tricky, will be able to escape the Flash Dredge line. It looked as though Destiny caught himself on a wolf, and Destiny's gonna go underneath the tower. Right, Requiem comes down, that will do some damage. Sacre's now inside the fight as well. He completed the TP, will be forced to go into the W and escape with his life. Teleport committed for that one. The second factor I want to bring into that discussion is, yes, Crownshot has to step up to carry, but I also think Trick needs to find a bigger impact. We have made some jokes in LEC Update a few times. I personally have been critical in previous games, and I just think he's not having the level of impact that SK were anticipating, and his play is slowing SK down in some ways.
Yeah, I mean, this also just felt really doomed from him from level 1. So
Yeah.
it's like, it's hard to find a lot of fault in that, because again, that seems
They
to me like...
committed to a play that backfired.
Right, exactly. Like, that's a team-wide decision. I just feel like they needed to play it much faster and not allow Nidalee to just hit you with spears and then maybe land the smite around the Raptor camp so that you can hit over towards level 2 and gain some more control. But after that, his impact has been so severely limited that SK going to be very happy to find the 1-for-1 trade in this topside play.
And I just want to put some numbers to that like second half of the split discussion that we talked about. You can see SK 2 and 6 right now, Schalke 2 and 7, XL 4 and 5. Okay, so 2 games difference. Imagine if XL drops a game to SK. All of a sudden, that's a 1-game difference, right? There's 9 left to play after today. And on the other side, Origen, you assume they're going to finish this out. They'd be sitting for a G2 and Misfits at 7 and 3. Holding on first place. I cannot believe Misfits are up there.
Yeah, I mean, just to see, you know, those 3 teams and it to be that Misfits on the 5 or 7 game streak, going to be a big deal. But OG sort of expected for them as they go to engage.
Definitely the case. Once again, the Devour comes out, and now Jenax gets stunned up, locked down. Bullet time does a lot. Oh my word! Give that man some air miles because he was flying.
Nuke just sniped him out of the air, and OG able to continue
Also,
on
what are you
the
meant to do?
advance.
What are you meant to do? Put yourself in Jenax's shoes. A long-range Ornhorn, a long-range Nautilus Ultimate. That just feels bad, man.
Just
Obviously,
leave the jungle. Like,
the team is down like 7,000 gold too.
Yeah, SK, hide in your base. It is nothing outside of there belongs to you anymore. You do not have any power, any say whatsoever in this game.
Oh.
Even if it looks like you're at a numbers advantage, you're
Slow-mo.
not.
Slow-mo, slow-mo, slow-mo. Give us a slow-mo. Yeah. See? Air miles. He's going to earn a free upgrade and an instantaneous teleport back to the base.
I really thought the payoff was going to be better on that. You're like, don't
did
say anything.
too. No, I did too. I thought there may have been like a dramatic move, but I got the slow-mo I wanted, so thank you. Nevertheless, Limit gets knocked up into the air next 1 and 2 times, every single ability, and he will just get burned down. That was the slowest moving catfish I have ever seen in 10 seconds before the next Ocean Drake. Remember the previous
Oh
one
my
was picked up by
God.
SK. Dredgeline finds a target. Jenax gets a lot of damage. Where's the support? He manages to do it. Jenax gets some payback with a showstopper of note. The Requiem doesn't have enough to do anymore. The team is too far behind. It is like chasing a losing battle. Now Sacre gets tagged with the long-range Javelin. He's forced away from the Ocean Drake. All of a sudden, another one lands. Xerxe sitting inside the bushes. Ocean Rift is the best for Nidalee. It is over now as Crownshot stays alive with a sliver of health, and he gets taken down by, I believe, the takedown. And all of a sudden, what looked like a great start fizzles to disappointment.
Yeah, I mean, it starts with like multiple hooks here landing from Destiny on towards Limit. This is where I was sort of questioning, like, do SK realize how far behind they are? Because Jenax is still not in this fight, so Limit just gets caught out and immediately goes down. And then Jenax is like, screw it. I'll go back in again. Doesn't matter. They really want to contest that Drake. Do not want to give OG the third one around. And then with the jump on in and the 3-man grab into the true damage, repositioning the flash to get the true damage onto Misfortune. Like, that was a really solid play coming through from Jenax in a game that's just been entirely grim for SK.
Okay, so Crownshot and Jenax. These are the two we're looking at for
We
the
have another
second
name, Trev.
half of this. I mean, look, that was a really sick play. I think it was a little bit of OG grouping up as well, right? But all credit to Jenax for seeing the opportunity. And I actually missed it during the play-by-play. I was very focused elsewhere, but I was Trick that actually secured that dragon. So 2 Oceans on the side of SK. If you can, by some miracle, stall out for the soul, maybe, but it's a 10K gold deficit.
So, Trevor, do you think the second Ocean Drake is worth the Baron? Because that's what OG got during the replay.
There we go. Right, I take that back. OG are in such a great position. They've got the ability to push, and that range that you talked about earlier that's going to be zoomed in under these inhibitor turrets, that's going to be so difficult to deal with.
Yeah, there's going to be no escaping too. Like, all these spears are going to be going flying around when you're underneath this tower. So Xerxe probably just going to play inside the jungle looking for spears over the walls. No, he's going to walk forward. with the rest of the team and try to knock this one down. TP behind, though.
Okay, where's this? Is this Jenax?
It's Jenax.
Let's see what he can do. Looking for the ultimate, and that's the slam down onto Upset. But once again gets pulled backwards. Some heals coming up from Nidalee. Upset survives so much longer than I was expecting. But Jenax gets his man. They hold off on the Baron-empowered Siege for now.
Okay, Jenax, I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. He just picked Upset up and threw him across the wall, so it wasn't even a one-for-one trade that time. OG's still going to be able to get this turret in the end, but Jenax needs to continue to try and find these plays. The difficulty is, TP only comes up every once in a while. Like, you're not going to be able to make that same play unless you're able to maneuver around the enemy vision, which right now OG have full control over.
Jenax said it in the little interview we ran with him just before this game. We're playing OG. Scaling. And that's what they're going to need to do. They need to scale to a point they can be more relevant. And they need Sacre to survive these levels of engages, which he has done for now. The tower is under siege. And in the mid lane, Alphari is shoving in with that GP. Dredgeline will catch limit, but no flash available. But like, this is the least effective wave clear, maybe on the team. And all of a sudden, the tower is going to fall.
Oh, that's a hook, though.
Oh, my word. You needed to W before, or flash or something. The Devour will work out. Crownshot? Woo! That was a very bold arcane shift. There was no further CC to follow up. Destiny's ult was on cooldown. And Jenax is still playing the split push game. He's taken the tower. Dredgeline will get interrupted by the arcane shift. The tower falls once again. There is a late recall from Jenax, and the inhibitor's being received.
No, Jenax has just come back. Upset walked all the way here too and is playing in the fog of war, so SK do not actually know. No, he was spotted walking over ward, going through that jungle, so SK do know that he's around. Still, had Jenax been there, I feel like SK may have been able to hold on to that inhibitor tower. Just killing Upset in the first place by Jenax stalled out so much of this Baron that they weren't able to go even further and actually knock out an in-hit.
Which is actually insane, right? Because as we started talking about that, I was kind of setting up there's a potential like a Soul and Elder win condition for SK, which I instantly gave up on because of Baron. But SK have been able to stall because of a single play from Jenax. He bought enough time.
Two of them, actually.
There we go. Now it's 1 minute, sorry, until the next Ocean Drake. And SK haven't been emboldened enough to push for their vision line, but they are grouping up and stepping forward. Destiny just about able to get that, but the arcane shift put enough distance, and that means the flash is down.
Yeah, so right now, Alphari's pushing up in the top side. I wonder how deep he wants to go with push. Not that deep. Instead, he's just going to push out that wave and start to rotate back towards the team. Now, SK picking up the last two dragons means that like they very clearly wanted to stop OG from getting to that sort of soul point win condition here, but I don't think they had the ability to actually leave their base this time. And if they lose a bad fight around the Baron at 30 or around the Dragon at 30 minutes, like that could just be the game. Now that all these inner turrets have been knocked down, now that bot lane inhibitor is exposed, so this time SK just gonna give this one up and probably play for Dragon 4 for OG.
It feels that way, and I think they need to give some kudos here to SK. They've been able to stall the last few minutes.
Yep.
Like 10,000 golding at 20 minutes doesn't feel as bad at 30. Look, it's still a gigantic mountain to overcome.
Yeah, and let's be clear, like, yes, SK have a lot of champions that scale well, but this isn't a game where we're saying like SK outscale, all they have to do is hold on. No, you're looking at, you know, the gangplank on the other side. You're looking at Ornn items too, right? So there are scaling elements to both sides. It's just right now, SK are like down full items or items and a half to their counterparts, so they do need time to get back onto an even close to even footing.
And then, if they can do that, which is incredibly difficult, they then need another superior outplay from a Jenax or a Sacre. But also, crucially, by that point, Trick's Requiem's become a lot more valuable as we scale up. He's got himself the Void Staff. Sacre has picked up the Death Cap. You got 2.5, nearly 3 items here for Jenax as well. But I think this next Baron could be the deal breaker.
Yeah, you speak about items too. I'm looking at the QSS on Upset because now how does Jenax play the fight? Gangplank can orange away that ultimate. Upset can cleanse it away too. You don't want to hit the Ornn. Like, you need to find Nidalee somehow in this fight, I feel like, for Xerxe, or wait until a QSS is baited out until GP's W is gone too. So SK have to come to this fight very, very intelligently because one wrong use of that button and so much team fight power is just going to be wasted.
Okay, what is on the replay here? Abyssal Voyage.
Okay.
To
get a flank TP ward. That's really cool.
That is sick.
That is really cool.
Thank you, observers. All right.
So here's the thing. Jenax doesn't have TP and it won't be up for this Baron. Sacre does. And because OG's vision has been so good throughout this game, they would be able to see him come around on any flank realistically, but not that one. That one is going to be super, super crucial.
All right, Crownshot and Sacre, they have teleports available. TP for Jenax is about 75% of the cooldown around. True Shot Barrage fired out just to scout out really what looked like the red buff bushes. Right, Baron is live. 3 minutes to Ocean, and the Soul is available for the grabs on the Origen side. Upset is stepping forward to clear out the Krugs in the top lane, and now the rest of SK. They will be very happy they're not forced to play Baron yet. Jenax's TP is getting closer and closer.
So this is the thing, OG don't really like to start up the Baron and have you fight them when they're already on it. They don't like getting chunked out from that objective. So instead, they're going as far forward as they can inside SK's jungle to get vision, to deny vision, all these things. They want to play for a pick before they actually commit to the Baron. Now that may change if SK don't take the bait, because there is the ability to try and two-man this. And as you see, they're trying to bait out blue, vision trinkets from SK. SK have a whole lot of those. They have one remaining off of cooldown on towards Jenax. The second that is blown, that is when OG will turn towards the Baron.
Oh, okay, so Jenax is now open and available. Tons of traps, tons of vision.
Here's the thing, look at this. SK are pushing mid, but OG don't have to go to the Baron. They're running into the top lane, and that inhibitor tower is primed and ready for OG to knock down.
This is the experience we talked about earlier. Players that understand when you apply pressure in one location, if you have the ability to just rotate to another lane and get something more
they want to fight this.
But at what cost? Limit is going to deliver Crownshot, but instantly Crownshot runs away. Here comes Trick. Crownshot goes over the wall. He's putting some damage down, but it's Sacre that is in trouble. That's a flash forward from Jenax. A massive multi-man. Oh! Set is blown up. Jenax is the hero.
And he's alive.
SK needed.
Jenax somehow stays alive right there after getting an insane ultimate, sniping out Upset again. He is doing everything in his power to try and keep SK in this game, and it looks like it's just enough to stall out this Baron. Is it enough for SK to tempt and take it themselves? It is 30 seconds away to an Upset respawn, and he has the TP too, so they must act fast if they want to do it.
He's got level 16 as well. Jenax has got a gigantic backpack and is carrying all of SK for now.
My.
Xerxe, can he find the Javelin? Not just yet. And all of a sudden, there is a momentary breath of life. I am not believing it just yet. It is still a 9,000 gold difference. It is still a dragon lead. It is still vision superiority for OG. But Jenax may just be the difference maker that can bring SK into it.
Look, don't believe it yet, but start thinking about it here. Eyes on Jenax, level 16 in this fight. He gets that ulti, doesn't do a whole lot of damage, but just him walking up here is enough to try and get in on towards Upset, who has the flash, mind you, but from 50% HP gets nuked. Then Limit is able to escort him out of that fight, and SK live to fight another day. The items are coming through. Crownshot has 3, Jenax has 3, Sacre is working on his 2. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. Like that was a 4 versus 5. Sacre did absolutely nothing, and Jenax still pulling so much weight and giving his team more time. Now, this is the Ocean Soul opportunity for OG. Can Trick get it?
All right, let's find out. Trick got the previous one. It will be the 3rd dragon for SK, and that will be secured. Trick's able to pick it up again. Call of the Forge God comes down, and Trick is the only target that's caught out. Alphari steps forward. He's looking for Sacre. Trick flashes defensively. Sacre is in the Hemo Plague. Not just yet. Not going to do enough. Not going to be enough to bring his life back. It's not even a Hemo Plague. Nevertheless, Jenax goes down as well. I completely stumbled over my own words, but SK get Ocean at the cost of what I anticipate being Baron, maybe the game. That's 3 members dead, 2 of whom for 40 seconds.
Yeah, OG are just going to look to run this one straight on in here. They have the engaged tools to try and force fight. They have the tankiness with Ornn and Nautilus to tank the towers. They are going to push for the end, and the damage dealers from SK are 30 seconds away. It'll be a 5v3 at the Nexus towers, and OG have the tools they need to try and push this one through, but the wave clear is strong enough with Xerxe.
Yeah,
or, sorry, with Trick.
With Trick on the Karthus. The 2 of us are getting tongue-tied because we're so caught off guard by this game. Now look, he's bought enough time for Limit to get back alive. Nukeduck forced to dash away to safety. Crownshot can chase.
Wait a second. Jenax has TP in 10 seconds. His ultimate coming up around that time as well. You can see that the assist beam pings. SK Gaming want to try and find him. I think OG have gotten further enough away, though, so it won't be possible.
Oh, man. Okay, but if OG stop Baron, There is a possibility. I believe the water's just been cleared up on the northern side of the mid lane river. Jenax will be late to this party. SK, they don't want to commit to it. 2 inhibitors down. Baron secured. But SK at 35 minutes are snout with their 1 lost shot.
Okay, look, SK, they've done a pretty good job of stalling for a long time when they were down they're down 12k gold still, and obviously this next push could be the one to break everything. But let me give credit to the fact they've gotten 3 ocean dragons so far. They get this one too, even with a very close smite. And what this has done, not only does it prevent OG from picking up the soul themselves, but it delays the Elder Dragon, the buff that would end the game, and allows SK more time to get their items to when they could potentially fight around that objective. So wait and see, can they stall through this Baron? If so, they have a chance at winning the game. If not, it's over.
I don't like the if questions, but imagine if SK hadn't fallen so far behind early. Imagine if Xerxe wasn't able to delay Trick so heavily. How different that mid-game could have looked, because it is so clear that Jenax knows what the hell he is doing on 6.
Remember how hard it is for SK to find a team fight initiation. No flash on Jenax just yet, so they're going to have to give up the inhibitor. The last fight, they're going to draw the line right outside of their Nexus towers, and that's where they will try to go for the team fight. And all OG have to do is look for a pick, look for a play off of a good dredge line from Destiny.
Okay, running! Jenax will get to you soon, but I think the fight is already over. Let's find out. Oh! Upset with a QSS flash! Instantaneous! That was a thing of beauty! And the Requiem does nothing. That outplay from Upset is the definition of this game. Within the following fight, Jenax and Trick go down. The rest of SK are running for their lives. The superiority of Origen is on display. And despite a heroic effort from Jenax, OG win the game.
OG are definitely going to go back and look at that one too, because they had such a big lead early game. So flawless from them. Things stalled out for a little bit around the mid right there, but it felt like even with some bad fights, they held on to control. It was just starting to slip, and that's when they, got back down to brass tacks and knocked it out.
I really like the fact that Jenax can just demonstrate the impact a single player in a deficit, but with, finding the right target, finding the skill shots, what it can have. Unfortunately, it's just not enough. The team was so far behind that it was a delay of the inevitable.
Yeah, and also, eventually the itemization is going to make you irrelevant. When the enemy MF picks up a QSS, a GA on top of that, there's not a whole lot you can end up doing right there, regardless of how hard you do try. And believe me, he tried really hard.
Yes, he did. So that sets the scene looking forward. We've already talked a little about what SK have to do. We turn our attention to OG, tied at the top of the table with Misfits, 7-2, if I recall correctly, both of whom. So they finished the first round robin. Quick update on key player of the game. Head over to Twitter at LEC and vote for Alphari, Xerxe, or Destiny. You can figure it out. For me, the